It's the Crack Rugby podcast. It's the URC Fixtures Are Finally Out edition. On the line today, I've got William Davies. How are you today, William?
I'm good, Alan. Very good indeed. Enjoying the sunshine. It's a beautiful end to August.
It most certainly is, and it looks like it's going to be a beautiful day for the women's Interpros, which you'll be commentating on tomorrow.
It's a warm, sunny day at the sports ground, which is an unusual combination. Looking forward to it. It's great to get rugby back there, and hopefully, it's nearly a sellout now. Hopefully, by the time it's done and dusted, it will be a sellout. It'll be 500 spectators, and it'll be great.
Yes, and as we're in the podcasting world, this podcast will go out after the match is played, and we will hopefully have some audio to listen to. But we'll come to that in a little while. We also had a new jersey launch today. The European jersey was launched today. I think it's called a teal colour. Looks like off green to me, but yeah, teal looks like it on the away jersey. So it looks like the season's starting to finally get going.
Yeah, London Irish game confirmed as well for Friday, September the 10th at 5:30 p.m. Tickets for that are going to be very dependent on the government's pathway announcement here next Tuesday, the 31st of August. So they don't know, Connacht don't know. I would assume they'll be trying to get more than 500 people in, but they've promised to let people know as soon as possible after that government announcement. It really has been a busy day. It's rugby's been bobbing along during the summer with the Lions tour and players signing and coming back to training and all this, but now we're getting very close to the business end, and fingers crossed Mr. COVID will not be as prevalent or as much of an issue this season. It's still around, but people are getting ready to go, and these fixtures coming out now has sort of galvanized that, I think.
Yeah, we're away to Cardiff. It'll be the fourth time we'll have played Cardiff in the first game of the season. We currently lead the series 2-1 in that respect. They were our first ever opposition in the Celtic League, as it was back then, back in 2002, 2001, and we played them in Cardiff. They were pretty decent side back in those days, and we pulled off a surprise 6-3 victory. It must have been thrilling at the time. I wouldn't mind a similar result this time.
I would take 6-3 this time. Yeah, Friday, September the 24th. And then it starts home to the Bulls the following Friday night, 7:35 again. Home to the Dragons the following Saturday, 5:15. That's the 9th of October. Then two Interpros away to Munster, Saturday, October the 16th, 7:35. Saturday, October the 22nd, home to Ulster, 5:15. And then we have this very long gap of a month. Ireland will play 4 internationals in that period. Then Connacht are back in action again on the 26th of November, Friday, against the Ospreys at home, 7:35. Following Friday, they're away to Leinster at 7:45. And then it's 2 rounds of European rugby. The fixtures for that are due shortly. So there'll be 1 home or 1 away game on the weekends of the 10th and 17th of December. St. Stephen's Day, Sunday, December the 26th. Ulster versus Connacht, 5:15 in Belfast. That's a tough one. Saturday, January the 1st, Connacht versus Munster, 5:15. And then a change. No longer 3 interprovincial matches at Christmas, because on Saturday, January the 8th, Connacht will play the Stormers from Cape Town. So that's your first 10 rounds of URC games. It's a 6-4 home away bias. Weekend of January the 29th, after 2 more European rounds, they will be at home to Glasgow. And that's where you clearly see that after the first 11 games, you've played 7 at home and 4 away, which means your final 7 games is going to be 2 at home and 5 away. And that's a very I don't think that's a great balance. I haven't spoken to anybody in Connacht. I'd say they're a bit frustrated with this because you then go away to the Scarlets, away to Edinburgh, home to Leinster. Look, the fixtures, everybody will be able to see these fixtures. But basically what you've got, it must be hope that the longer the season goes on, the easier it's going to be to get fans in. That's you would think you would start with smaller numbers and work upwards. Problem for Connacht is after January the 29th, that's the weekend of January the 29th. We don't know exactly when the fixture is. They play Glasgow. They won't be at home again till March the 26th against, weekend of March the 26th against Leinster. And then they will have one final home game on the weekend of May the 21st against Zebre.
Which might be the only home game of the season after March, depending on how we do in Europe.
Well, in Europe, there'll definitely be a home game because the round of 16 is a double header. It's an aggregate game. So you're guaranteed one more.
That's something. Yeah.
You are guaranteed one more home game in Europe if you get into the round of 16. So the April, for example, is away to Benetton, 2 European rounds, one home, one away, provided they get there. One of which is at Easter, which is not an easy time for fans to travel. And then they're off to South Africa for 2 games. It just looks a bit odd, the way this has been laid out. I remember a couple of years ago being at a members forum for Middlesex Cricket Club, where I'm a member. And most of it was dominated about fixtures. And the head of cricket at the time, Angus Fraser, I think he was standing up there and everybody was standing up, and he said, look, nobody is ever going to be fully happy with fixtures. Because if you please Peter, Paul's fuming, or vice versa. But I think this is a bit uneven. And it's this gap, it's this weird situation of from March the 26th, May the 21st, you could have one home game there. Yeah. That's a long time. Yeah. And organizations talk about engagement. They've made this decision to stop during the Six Nations, to stop during the autumn internationals. The proviso being that players would be more available. Well, I don't think players will, because players will go into camp bubbles for their international sides. They have to be rested. So there's no guarantee that stopping games in those is actually going to give you any more access to your international players. It's a new competition. There's new structures in place. There's new TV deals in place. And really what we all want is just, let's get playing. Let's stay playing.
Yes, very much so.
That's the key, isn't it?
It is. And I'm just looking at, if you look at it, we get 2 weeks in a row we're at home, the 1st of October, the 9th of October. Then we're away. Well, it's in Munster, so it's not that far away. Then there's 2 more home games effectively 2 in a row with the gap for the Interpros or the internationals. So you've got Ulster and then Ospreys at home. Then you've got the December 3rd. In December we'll have 1 home game. But in January there's a possibility of January 1st, January 8th, and then the following week another home game. So you could end up with 3 home games in a row in January. Actually, yes, you're going to have 4 out of 5 weeks in January where we're at home.
What it boils down to, Alan, is this: after Connacht have played Cardiff on the first game, they will not leave the island of Ireland to play a URC game till February, which is the Scarlets. Now they will go and play 2 games in Europe, but again, that's, as you say, there's a potential for home game after home game after home game, and that's great. But again, if I was looking at it from the perspective of getting fans in, I'm thinking, yeah, but you see, in March and April, the situation might be so much better.
Yes.
For fans.
Yes.
We don't know. We've no idea. And all I can say is every sports organization is fighting this, and they have done a remarkable job. They haven't got it right all the time. You wouldn't expect them. It's impossible.
Yeah.
But this fixture list just looks uneven to me. But that's the way it is. And roll on, roll on the 24th of September, roll on the 10th of September. Let's get London Irish in for a game.
Yeah.
Connacht will also play Worcester the previous Friday, the 3rd, in Worcester,
Right.
which is another warm-up game for them. And then, well, it's 4 weeks to, it's what it boils down to, it's 4 weeks tonight. It'll be Cardiff on that lovely artificial pitch at the Arms Park.
Oh, you love that pitch. You love that pitch.
Well, Alan, I watched a lot of the under-20 stuff there this summer, and I mean, it's just
it's almost a different
just,
game.
It's a lottery. It's a complete lottery. If you're a fullback, good luck, because you don't know whether the ball is going to bounce and hit your big toe or bounce and go over your head.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, I did see one guy, I think he was Italian, go down to pick the ball up, and it just bounced over his head.
It's like, what the hell?
But anyway,
exactly.
that's what it is. Europe didn't go very well last year for Connacht at any stage, Champions Cup or Challenge. They will want to get a statement made there this season. So those fixtures will be maybe next week, maybe the week after. Because they're linked into all this, because teams want proper gaps.
Yes.
For example, Friday, December the 3rd, away to Leinster. The following weekend, you could be away to Leicester or Stade Francais.
Yeah.
Or you could be home to them. So you'll want that game to be played well. If we get an extra day, Connacht be saying, well, can we have Saturday would be good, Sunday would be even better. But then if you play on a Sunday and then you're asked to play on a Friday, it's a conundrum for the clubs and the TV companies and the organisers, and we just have to wait and see what they come up with. But Europe will be the final pieces of the jigsaw.
And of course, one of the other things from the professional side of the game was that the European jersey and the away jersey came out today. I have to say, the more I look at the European jersey, the teal is quite an interesting colour. I'm sure it'll go very well with jeans. Which I think used to be the thing about it, but then I might be so old I'm way out of touch with it. But I do like the black jersey. I have to say the black away jersey looks really cool. And let's leave it at that. Neither of us are particularly fashion conscious type guys. Of course, tomorrow you're going to be in a beautiful sunny sports ground to commentate on the first Interpro of the women's season, where Connacht take on Leinster, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. 3 Saturdays in a row for the women. Many of whom haven't played a game of rugby since March 2020, which is staggering. They've just been training and training and training. They've been training since the start of June under their head coach Ross Mannion and his crew. I suppose it's a negative to start with, but you have to probably talk about it. The Irish international squad have not released any players back to any province for this interprovincial series, which is being covered on national television for the first time ever as well. The reason for that, I think, it's pretty simple. The competition they're involved with now is a vital qualification for the next Women's Rugby World Cup in New Zealand next September, October. They have 3 games to play. They're going to Parma, lovely part of the world. We've been there, Stadio Lanfranchi. And some of the best food and wine you'll ever come across. It's a brilliant place to travel to.
Yep.
But they won't be thinking about that. They're playing Italy, they're playing Scotland, they're playing Spain. The winner of that goes straight to the World Cup. The runner-up goes into what they're calling the final round-robin competition. It's a bit tricky to start on a negative, but the IRFU and the Ireland women's squad unit have not released any players back at this stage to the Interprovincial Series. They have a vital World Cup qualification tournament in Parma. They're playing Italy and Scotland and Spain. The winner of that goes straight to the Women's Rugby World Cup next year in New Zealand, which is a must. It really is a must for women's rugby that they get to that. It's the top 12 teams in the world. If you don't qualify for that, it's going to be a very tricky year next year, plus the start of another cycle. So they've just made this decision. So it means that players like Nicola Friday, Laura Feely, and obviously Vivian Parsons are not available for the Interpros. Bearing in mind that all these players are amateurs, some of the women who are in the Ireland squad are playing professionally in England, but the other players are amateurs, not in the way they practice and train, let me tell you, but in the fact that they're students or they have to go to work. They have to go out into a different world. So it's a very complicated situation. But speaking to Ross Mannion last weekend, I interviewed him for Galway Bay. They've known about this and they've just dealt with it.
Yeah.
So we're going to move on from that now. It's really about the 23 women for Leinster and the 23 women for Connacht. They pull on that jersey and they go out there and they do their best. And they're not going to be worried about who's available and who's not available. Leinster have 14 players away at the Ireland squad. And they've also had a number of retirements. So they are coming at this slightly differently as well. And their press conference during the week, they just wanted to talk about what they were going to do and the fact the excitement among the players of actually just getting to play rugby. Not train, not go to the gym, not do drills, not do this, not actually run out on the field. The referee blows the whistle and off you go.
Yeah,
and that's
it's something about the women. I'm away this weekend. I'm back at my parents' house, and that's why I'm recording this. So it might sound different than what I normally do. So I'm missing the game, and the one thing I'm going to miss more than anything is our opportunity that we get to interview them afterwards, because the sheer joy they have of playing the game is wonderful, and you'll get that opportunity hopefully tomorrow to talk to someone with a bit of luck with a positive result for Connacht too.
Well, absolutely, and I'm also looking forward to having Ali Miller as my co-commentator, whose sister is playing for Leinster.
Yeah.
So I'll have to have a little word about that beforehand. But Ali, talking to me earlier in the week, said, "Well, sure, I played against her 2 years ago in the final."
That's right. That's
and
right.
I said,
which we covered live, if you remember. Yes, we
which
did.
we covered live 2 years ago before anybody'd ever heard of COVID. And the world is, if that night somebody had explained it to you, you would have just shrugged your shoulders and said, "No, I don't think so." You've obviously been reading too many Stephen King books or watching too many series, HBO television series. But we've come a different way. But it's going to be really interesting to get her insights into the game as well. And they roll on. They're playing Munster the following weekend away, and then slightly annoyingly, they're playing Ulster. But it's a double header at Energy or Park. I can sort of understand why they've done that, but it means Connacht have lost out on a home game, which means fans, if they want to go and watch it, have to travel. And, that's a big demand. It was interesting talking to Leinster. This was fascinating. Michelle Claffey, who's 13 tomorrow for Leinster and is one of the vice captains of the team. She made an interesting point to one of the newspaper journalists, and something I hadn't thought about. She said women's rugby has changed radically in the last 3 years because players are starting to play earlier. And they're coming through structures where they're playing at 16, 17, 18, 19. She made the point that a lot of players previously didn't start playing rugby till they were 22, 23. Because they'd come from other backgrounds. Basketball was mentioned, ladies Gaelic football, camogie, other sports. But she said now there's a structure in place so that players, she said the biggest change she's seen is players are coming in now with higher skills levels because they're being coached at a younger age. And there's now a pathway to get into rugby earlier. So that was really interesting. And that's something we need maybe to tease out a bit. Yeah. I hope to get Ross Mannion maybe to have a chat with us, I think after the Interprovincials, and just he's the head coach, and just see where he thinks it's going.
I have to say, from my point of view, as a father of twins, a boy and a girl, and my daughter had to give up playing the game at 12 back in the day because she had no options. There was no games for them to play. Like to think that this is going to be on national TV and girls who make up 50% of the population or thereabouts have this opportunity to see women playing a game at a high level on TV. And it's that they have that phrase, if they see it, they'll want to replicate it. And I think this is brilliant, and it's fabulous from TG Cahir to take this on and to put it out live on a Saturday afternoon. Like this is not being hidden away somewhere. This is being put at, full on TV watching time. So hopefully it'll inspire plenty more young girls now that the opportunity is there.
And I think the clubs are aware of that, and there is this pathway situation. For example, on Sunday at the High Performance Centre, Connacht under 18 girls play Leinster. Now, on the same day, the Connacht under 19 boys and under 19 men. Not quite sure what that's how it's described. They also play Leinster, and that's going to be at the Energia Park. But you'd expect that.
Yes.
But it's the fact that there is an underage girls team there, so they're coming in.
Yes.
And that's how the game will develop and grow. The big challenge, as we know, at international level is New Zealand are professional, England are professional, France are what is described as semi-professional, and Canada are kind of in between, and everybody else is amateur. And the one thing I will tell you, amateur and professional sport does not mix. It just doesn't happen. So that's a big choice coming down the road for some of the other unions.
Well, it certainly is, and it's let's get as many people out watching these games and supporting them. And as you say, the sports ground is practically sold out for the match tomorrow, and that helps generate money and helps generate cash. So hopefully we'll see a little bit more of it. So I'll tell you what, why don't we move forward into the future and have a listen to a quick summary, hopefully from Ali, and the post-match interviews that you'll have got after the game, which with a bit of luck, Connacht will have won.
Ross, you've just had a long chat with your team out in the middle there after the match. What are you picking out of that 5-point defeat? They had their chances. It was a bit of a tough one to take, maybe.
It is a little bit, I suppose. The main thing we were saying is that for this group now, it's there can't be any looking back from this one. I think we kind of did leave it behind a little bit, if we're being brutally honest, and this is where we want to go with this programme. We want to be contesting for these championships every year. I think we proved to everyone today that we're well able, we're well able to compete. Just errors, too many errors, too many penalties. I would argue with a few penalties, but that's everyone. In terms of the ones that went against us, I thought we were very quick to get a yellow, and they got no yellow after repeated infringements. So that's very frustrating when there isn't a balance in some respects from the referee. But look, ultimately, I am immensely proud. I'm disappointed we lost, but I'm immensely proud of the group because of what they've put in. They put in a fantastic performance, a fantastic advertisement for Connacht Rugby and for themselves as individuals.
Yeah, they really got their pattern going in the first half, and when they went in, they just gave away maybe that sloppy try just on half time. You really had the feeling was Leinster were backpedaling at that stage. The second half was probably more of a tussle, but it's just small things, isn't it?
Yeah, it was just that connect on defence, and unfortunately they broke through in the centre, so it was a bit of a soft score just before half time, which was disappointing. I thought our D was immense, in credit to Gilly, our defensive coach. It was immense, and the work rate of the girls was fantastic on that. But yeah, ultimately then, as you were saying, the second half became a little bit scrappy, and we never really got a purchase or momentum into it. We were always kind of on the back foot in some respects, so we just need a little bit of possession and go forward in that second half, I think, just to try and get a score or two out of the game. Maybe a decision we could have, instead of going for post, instead of going for touch, we could have went for post, and just claw it back into the game maybe a little bit. But that's rugby and that's sport.
And next Saturday now away to Munster, so you've just got to focus on that straight away.
Yeah, I think, look, you have your moment now where you're frustrated, upset. We regroup, we'll get the video together for hopefully tomorrow, and then back on the pitch on Tuesday and prep for Munster, and we go and hunt for a win down there, we have to target 2 wins now out of the next 2 games. Have to, because our ultimate goal was to win this, so disappointed, but we move on.
We've got a significant background noise here, Ali. It's quite a buzz around the ground after that game played in bright sunshine.
Yeah, very tight game, and obviously supporters were getting behind both teams, and it came right down to the wire. But ultimately Leinster just got the better of Connacht, but very tight game.
I think Connacht are really disappointed. I think they, when they go back and look at that, they had them a couple of times and they just couldn't quite get it done.
Yeah, I think Connacht probably, to me, played the better rugby today. Probably looked like all their players looked like they were on the same page, and they went out with, unison in what they were trying to do. I think probably the issue, Leinster just had a little bit more possession. In saying that, they weren't as clinical as Connacht, the opportunities they had, but just they had more opportunities. So they just got over the line and got that win. But I think Connacht will be disappointed not to get the win. Just really, number 13, Michelle Claffey, was probably maybe just the difference between the two teams. She got 2 individually good tries, and, that was probably just the difference in the two teams, really.
Yeah, it probably was, and I suppose, look, both of these sides are missing a number of players who are off at international camp, but they kind of seized the opportunity. Second half, I think they were struggling a bit in the heat. It is unbelievably warm here. I've been coming to this ground. This is my 48th season coming here, started today. This is the hottest I've ever experienced at the sports ground.
Yeah, it's very warm out there, and to play in that heat is difficult and at any time, but to play in that heat, considering you haven't probably played a competitive game in 2 years, is going to be hard for both players. So that's definitely an issue, and I think maybe what made of Leinster might have just been the fitter team at the end to get over the line and get that win. But definitely the heat would have had a part to play. It's not something we really ever have to worry about in Ireland too often, so we won't complain about it, but it definitely probably had an impact on the players out there.
Just give me a sense. You're a multi-capped international, very experienced rugby player. Where do you think women's rugby is at the minute? There's, I've just alluded there to the fact that players are missing at Ireland camp, but then they have to qualify for the Women's Rugby World Cup. There's no alternative. That is a prospect that nobody can even contemplate.
No, yeah, they do have to qualify, and they are going to be favourites going into this qualifiers after the Six Nations run, considering the other teams. They've bet the other teams in the Six Nations and they've beaten them, so Ireland are going to be the favourites. I don't know, will they like being favourites going into the tournament, but they have to qualify. Ireland have played in the last 3 World Cups and have been relatively, obviously 2017 wasn't a great result, but they got to the World Cup. So I suppose women's rugby around the world is really thriving and growing, and you have professionalism in the club game in England, professionalism in the international game, England, France, New Zealand. All these teams are kind of semi-professional. So at the moment, Ireland aren't. I would like to see them going semi-professional. I don't see why not. It's just a matter of contracting. You could contract, a group of players that are able to be contracted. Other players won't be able to with their jobs, but I think if you contracted maybe 10, 11 players to start off at and get those players training full time, I think it would be a great step in that process to becoming... Because I think at the end of the day, ultimately, you got to keep up with what the other countries are doing. You can't complain about it, and you just have to go with fair play to England for taking the lead on that. It's up to the other nations to go and try and match them on those fronts. And if you can't match them, well, you have to get really inventive in your amateur status, get the players working as smartly and as effectively as you can without tiring them, because they've got jobs. So there's no point burning the candle at both ends. You have to be really imaginative and creative about how you maybe have hubs in the provinces where the players work on skills and conditioning during the week, and where they have professional coaches coaching them in their provinces, and they come together at the weekend camps. So that limits the driving that the players are doing. Different things like that, I think, can be effective. Trying to match the England and France, because we're a little bit far off. We're a little bit far off the France and England at the moment, and I know the Ireland team probably didn't play particularly well against France, but I think France show what a good team they are. So we're trying to bridge that gap to go and not just qualify for the World Cup, but to perform at that World Cup, I think is really important, because you would have seen the impact that the 2013 Grand Slam had on girls. They came and joined clubs around Ireland, and some of those girls are now playing 2014, the World Cup, beat New Zealand. That had a huge impact as of the 2015 Six Nations win. So success breeds interest, and it breeds more success. So it's important to get that success, and the best thing to promote women's rugby in Ireland would be success. Really, ultimately, you can have all these grassroots programs, but really what would drive numbers and drive standards would be for Ireland to win a Six Nations in the next few years, or to perform at a World Cup to get a semi-final or final. So I think we have to be ambitious, and there's no problem with being mega ambitious. It just takes everyone to get on board and drive that ambition, and everyone get behind it.
From that, is there a suggestion maybe that the IRFU don't have that ambition, or they're looking maybe more at 7s than 15s? How do you think they're coming at this? I know they've had the COVID issue. It's there for everybody, but the sport, nothing stands still in sport.
No, nothing stands still in sport, and you can't just be happy. I know they were happy with their own success this year in the Six Nations, but ultimately you always have to strive to be better and to be better. So yeah, like there is a huge focus on sevens, which is great because it gets people playing, but it's also a different game. So yes, you have players coming from the sevens game, highly skillful, fit, strong. It's a different game, 15. So you're going to have to give them time if they're coming from sevens into the 15s. A lot of time in camp to get used to the game and get used to different combinations. But the issue with focusing mainly on sevens is if that's their priority, is you're not working on the 8 players in the pack. Maybe back rowers play a bit of sevens, but your front 5 really. I mean, they need to be able to learn the nitty and gritty stuff that you don't do in sevens. So, there is a huge focus on sevens. Unfortunately, our women's sevens team haven't qualified for the last 2 Olympics. Yes, our men did and competed there in Tokyo, but we haven't seen that. So I think, both codes need to be respected. And look, they're both different games, so it's not just a matter of bringing girls in from sevens into 15s. We see players that might be really good at 15s and not good at sevens, and there's players that are really good at sevens and not 15s, and that's just the way it is. There's players in the middle that can play both and play both really well. But I think probably in the French game we saw a few issues around defensive situations where maybe just the lack of playing 15s at a high level in, week out, maybe just caught us off guard a little bit, and we conceded, set piece tries. But seems to be there seems to be a lot of focus on maybe sevens at underage levels, but I think there needs to be the same focus with the 15s game at under 18 and at grassroots levels, because I mean, sevens is brilliant, but maybe there's not the same following of a sevens team around the world as there is, a women's team, women's Six Nations team, a men's Six Nations team, a Connacht men or women's team, because people come to these games and they can follow them, and the people, they're on week in, week out. So I think that's important that both are given equal opportunity.
Talking about opportunity, Connacht now off to play Munster next weekend down in Cork. They'll have to bounce back fairly quickly from this, won't they?
Yeah, and I think it's unfortunate that there isn't the semi-finals like 2019, because I mean, you're training for 2 or 3 months and then you play, and your first game they've lost today, narrowly lost, and then they've only 2 more games, and you're still probably, yes, you've had in-house games, but you probably still don't know certain players what they can give you in a competitive environment. So they've seen some players today, yet they might need to make changes, so they really need to get back on the horse and focus on. There's no reason why they can't beat Munster. Showed today how good they are. Really well coached, really look like they're all on the same page, just maybe lacked a few maybe areas like the line out kind of let them down. Just a missed tackle in midfield for one of Leinster's trial, just looking at their defence, so there's no reason why they can't beat Leinster. They'll have to, regroup and get back to training on Tuesday and go from there, and watch the footage of Munster's game against Ulster and see, what opportunities they have to nitpick at Munster's game and see where there's opportunities for, scores and any parts of weaknesses of Munster's game.
Now, there was a certain Grace Miller playing today who came out on the winning side. Have you had a chance to have a chat with your sister, who was instrumental in making Leinster's first try with a very good offload pass? Yeah,
she had a good game. I was hoping that she'd play well, but that Connacht would win. That would be the best outcome. But I was talking to her after the game. She said she felt it was a bit like to be expected. A lot of girls haven't played in 2 years, and it's a little bit rusty. There's a lot of handling errors, and the heat was hard out there, and just getting used to it. She felt, and it's interesting, she felt that Connacht were very physical and more physical than Leinster, she felt, just from a player perspective. So that's a positive for Connacht going on to next week, that they can bring that physicality, and that they felt that Connacht were very physical today. So I'm sure she'll fill me in a bit more how she felt after the game.
And also, a little lady today made her first appearance at a rugby match. Baby Ruby, who's been around was born about 12 weeks ago.
12 weeks ago, yeah. So my first baby, baby Ruby. So she's brought up to the sports ground for her first rugby match. So she seemed to enjoy it. There was no crying anyway. So you never know. We might see her out in the pitch in a few years, or probably knowing me and her father are very sporty. She probably won't be one bit sporty and won't probably play at all. But I'll look, whatever she wants to do, we'll be happy. But yeah, it was nice to see her there and to see her aunt play, and many of my friends playing there today.
Yeah, well, I have to say one of the coolest people in the whole place was baby Ruby, because it was roasting here. Ali, great to talk to you. We'll catch up again soon. We'll be watching the rest of this tournament with great interest.
Yeah, and it's great to see it on the TV. It's really, really good to see it being televised, and it gives great exposure to a lot of the players here, and people can watch interprovincial rugby. They haven't seen that yet. They've only ever seen international. So it's great that the women's game is getting that spotlight.
But I think we should leave it at that. We've got a full-on preview we need to do in the next couple of weeks when we get the rest of the Craggy crew together, and do a proper preview of what should be a fascinating season, even if the fixture list is a bit lopsided.
Yeah, let's do that.
Loose, cut it loose. Break out or nothing changes. Sad and confused. Don't wait until